Welcome to another episode of the Skytale Insights podcast. I am so thrilled to be here with Alyssa Shaw, who is CEO of the Aesthetic Syndicate, although there are going to be a few exciting announcements there. And of course, I'm your host, Annie Robertson Hockey, president of Skytale. So, Alyssa, thank you again for being here. It's a treat. One of the sort of little known facts about the Aesthetic Syndicate is that your headquarters sits legitimately next door to the Skytale headquarters. So I'm looking at your background and wishing I was in Dallas. It looks like a wonderful day there.
It's a beautiful day here. I know typically our backs are facing each other when we're in opposite buildings on calls.
Exactly. Well, you have been with the Aesthetic Syndicate, Taz, since I think around June. So not so long ago, although it feels like so much longer than that in a welcome, in a great way. Would love to just hear a little bit more about your path here.
Yeah, love to share. I have been a patient in aesthetics. I think I got my first round of neurotoxin, I think it was Botox, maybe when I was 30. So more than 15 years now, I have been a patient of aesthetics and just absolutely in love with the health and the beauty world. And I have to tell you, just these last 4 months in role have been already just a highlight of my career. And I'm so excited about the future. But how I got here is I had the privilege of being a part of the leadership team that built the Ulta Beauty brand, starting with Ulta in lower level management and learning the ropes and growing, all the way through to the executive team and opening, 1,200 stores during my tenure there. And ended up working here in Dallas, Texas for Zales, the diamond store, and reimagining their 100-year-old brand, which was also a fantastic experience. Like, who gets to go from beauty to diamonds, right?
And good run so far.
I know, it's pretty good. It's a good run, right? And then as I was working for Zales, a little known company at the time named Solidcore had reached out. They're private equity backed, and they were looking for an operations leader who knew how to grow and scale organizations. And I will tell you, at the time, I was always S&P 500, used to reporting to Wall Street quarterly, and working in private equity scared the heck out of me as you think about all the scary things you hear about private equity, right? That they're not focused on talent or focused on culture, and all they care about is the bottom line, et cetera, et cetera. And so I really entertained that opportunity and talked to the Solidcore team and the board for about 7 months before actually stepping into the role as COO there. And I will tell you, that is absolutely where I fell in love with private equity. I think I've been spoiled by working with just the best of the best, but was a part of the team that grew the Solidcore business, and they're still thriving today. And when Solidcore had a transaction at the end of last year, I decided to take a year off of work, and I was just sitting on the board of Glowbar, which is a fabulous business based out of New York City. Think $65 a month, 30-minute facials. They're just growing like wildfire. I'm so proud of the team. So I was sitting on their board and attempting to take a year off of work when my now investors reached out and said, hey, would you be interested in growing and scaling an aesthetics business based in Dallas in your backyard? And the short of the long is, here we are, and it's already been just an incredible ride. And I share all of that because I think there's a lot of different ways that you can end up working with private equity, no matter your background. And I will tell you that I think the private equity stories that we hear are probably from a long, long time ago. And I will tell you that I've met some of the best business leaders, most talent focused, most culture driven, do the right thing for people type of leaders, all throughout the private equity space. And I just feel super blessed to be part of it.
Oh, I love that story. Also, it's so funny. To me, the concept of I've never worked in a public company. And so the idea of being more scared by private equity than like public market and quarterly recording. I mean, if you're coming from that type of accountability, I can see why a private equity firm would really enjoy working with you as a leader, because obviously part of your job, rightly so, is to report up to the folks who have invested in you, potentially quarterly, but hopefully a little bit less. I guess, they're also incented in investing in growth and sort of aligned with you. I think there's a slightly more alignment in terms of incentives there.
Agree. Yeah. And in on both sectors, it's about building a great brand, right? And you make the right decisions for the business, never at the expense of doing what's right for the team or by building a great brand. I think in the private equity world, you have a little bit more runway on levers you can pull and timing of those levers, because you're not always reporting quarterly, and you can make some longer term plays. And quite frankly, you can move a lot faster as well, which is really fun.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's a fun story. And if you know me, you know that one of my religions is Pilates. And so I of course love the solidcore brand, and that's really such an incredible story.
Only
So
work out for life.
makeup, diamonds, Pilates, and medical aesthetics.
I know. No one's feeling sorry for me. It's been a good.
You do work a lot, so you did a little bit of that for yourself. But sort of on that note, so many of your peers, I'm so fortunate to have relationships with many of these platforms, and so many of your peers are coming in from healthcare, or even investing, and you clearly have a retail background, specifically in high growth, often four-wall retail. Um, how do you think that it informs your approach to leadership at TAS?
Yeah, it's a great question. The way that I got into retail in the first place is because I am old enough that you could work at the mall at 14 years old. I had been working in retail stores literally since I was 14 years old. And I remember I worked at a Van Heusen outlet in Flemington, New Jersey, which was right next to their corporate office, which was in Bridgewater. I remember as a teenager, the buyers coming in and the VPs coming in and asking me my opinion about things and asking me what's selling and what's not selling. And I'm literally like 14, 15 years old.
Yeah.
And I just remember being thrilled to be a part of those conversations. And I always joke that I still have the same job today. I just never stopped doing it since I was 14. And so the reason I share that is because, I believe that all of the answers are found with the people who are closest to our patient and closest to our consumer. And at the end of the day, like if you need answers or you want to know what's working and what's not working, the answers are with the people who are closest to your patient. And so I am a very, very much boots on the ground, ear to the ground leader. I think I visited every location. We have 17 locations now across the US. I visited 15 of the 17 in my first 3 weeks in role. We're flying all of our practice managers in. I'm so excited into our home office tomorrow. So we're having a 2-day meeting with all of them. And then on Thursday, we'll do a full company meeting with every single employee in the business. And so I think my retail background has just built inside of me a boots on the ground, ear to the ground type of leadership that myself and my team serve our team, that they are our first customer, and then they then serve our consumers that are actually the ones who pay our bills and that we serve every day. So I believe when you have a happy team, you will have happy customers.
Totally. And it's such an interesting, industry, services of all sorts, where you have two customers. You have your, at least the way I think about it, you have, even for me as a consulting leader, right? I have my team, and then I have our clients. And, I fundamentally believe that if everything is working with the team, the client piece will follow.
Yeah.
But, health, it's such an interesting industry, because I think typically in healthcare, the provider really is the expert. But also in retail, the patient or the customer is the expert. Like the customer is always right. And so bridging those two things and having feedback mechanisms up to you for both. And of course, you're also a patient, which I'm sure doesn't hurt.
Yes.
That's a really interesting concept.
Yeah, agree.
Is there anything that you've had to sort of, as you entered this, now regulated industry, I guess, which is a little bit new, is there anything that you've had to unlearn or sort of change in terms of your style coming to the brand?
Oh, that's fascinating. Not as far as my style. I would say that I have had to almost double down on what I know works well. And in that, all of the businesses that I have led and been a part of, at the end of the day, is a relationship business. I always say, like, no matter what we're doing, we're in the people business, right? We're in the business of people. And I think in this industry, it's even more so. It's like on steroids.
Yeah.
Because building relationship, building trust and credibility with our team, with our providers is truly everything, because they bring their education, they bring the art and the science that only they can do uniquely to us. And they truly embody our brand and who we are. And when you don't, without their trust, you truly don't have a business.
Right.
So I would say nothing like hugely pivotally different, but really doubling down. Like, I love that the Peter Drucker quote that says, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And I think there's nothing more true than that quote in aesthetics, even in all the businesses that I've run before.
Yeah. Technically speaking, if you had to, push came to shove, you could sell a diamond, you could sell cosmetics. Honestly, Alyssa, you could probably teach a Pilates class at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But what we can't do is provide. So that is a really different thing in this industry where, it's a very specialized trade. And, talent is, the most important, such an important piece of this, and making sure that resonates with them is huge.
Yeah, you think about it, Annie, too. Like, in all of the businesses that I have run, you have to have your consumers' trust, right? And the credibility. I think there's something really unique about that in aesthetics, in that when we go see our provider, like when I go as a patient and I go see my provider, I'm sharing like what I'm insecure about or what I'm feeling vulnerable about. And then I'm literally laying there and having them put needles like very close to my eyeballs, right? By the way,
Yeah.
QRF Easy Gel combo, like in my under eyes, is like game changing. But it also means there's literal needles in my almost eye sockets, right?
Yes. Yes.
After I've just had this conversation with my provider, in this case, it was Evie, sharing with her just about the things that I see and seeing, what she thinks of that, right? And so then you also have the health component, and you want to make sure that you have the relationship and the trust that this person really knows what they're doing. And so as I sit in my role as CEO, when I think about my providers trusting in us, as the safer they are and the happier they are in what they're doing, that's automatically going to translate into that relationship with their patient. And I just think you can't help but overflow from that. And it's really just this unique, special environment that I think really only see in aesthetics.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And I'll have to get your regimen after. Okay, brand. So brand is something I love to talk about. It's also increasingly one of the top things I'm asked about, just in terms of my advice. What is the importance of brand? What is the importance of consolidation of brand? I think I'm especially sort of having conversations around this as it relates to the proliferation of like the longevity and functional wellness platforms, many of which are telehealth, right? Is it brand that's differentiating these? Is it something else? I know that, per our conversation so far, brand is really important to you, and a piece of your strategy. So how do you think about brand, the role of brand in what you're building? I guess I'll leave it there.
Oh, it's such a good, big, vague question.
I know. And I know that I think there's sort of some fun announcements or fun updates coming there too. So it's particularly, I think, relevant, right now for you all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we actually have some really, really cool announcements coming internally this week, with some external announcements soon to follow. But absolutely love talking about brand, especially in this space. So what is unique, I believe, about the Aesthetic Syndicate is we are a partnership platform that we buy businesses existing businesses, and we also build businesses. So we have one new construction under construction in Phoenix as we speak that we'll be looking to grand open the second week of January, which is really exciting. And so we are 17 locations today, with a target of being at 65 locations by 2028, which is just really, really exciting. And so within that strategy, there'll be about 60% acquisitions, meaning purchasing existing thriving businesses, and then 40% building new under a new brand. And so what I love about the build and buy strategy is that it just depends on what area of the market that you're in, what is that consumer demand, and we can really leverage our strategy to fit where the consumer is, while not having a peanut butter spread, meaning doing the same thing everywhere all the time. It just gives you that extra piece of agility, right? So as I came into the Aesthetic Syndicate just about 4 months ago, I did a deep dive on, mission, vision, values, and, what is our manifesto and what do we stand for? And there's some really good work done around it. And then, as you know, I went on to a deep dive of just the consumer space and, what does the med spa industry look like today? And what is the consumer telling us? Where do we believe that it will be, especially as we think about longevity and peptides and HRT and all of these things that are personally life-changing? I could go on a tangent about that, on just what it's done for me personally. And then, what does that mean for the future of aesthetics and what our patient is looking for? And so, the power of brand, and in my opinion, is that you're never going to take the place of the provider, right? In that relationship that you and I just talked about, there's no replacing that. However, brand can point to where can I find providers like that, where I know that the ethos is going to be very similar, like where I know I can go and I can be in a trusted, safe place that has a ridiculous amount of expertise and stellar patient outcomes every single time, and also be in a place where I can be vulnerable and I can be accepted for who I am, and also in a place where I believe the consumer is telling us that we just want to look more like ourselves. We don't want to look like a carbon copy. We don't want to look like everybody else. We just want to look on the outside like we feel on the inside. And, we've narrowed down our niche patient, our niche consumer to people that have momentum in their life. They're excited about where they're going. They're proud about where they've been. And that can be at any age range, right? You can be excited about where you're going, proud of where you've been. You're kind of like looking over the horizon of your life with optimism and excitement. And you want that to reflect on the outside, however that means to you. And so we set out to build a brand that appeals to that person. And then as I think about us as a platform and being a place that businesses can also call home, that we partner with, these are businesses that have momentum in their business and they're excited to continue to expand. They're excited to continue to grow, and they want to also be with people who are business experts who can help them do what they do best on a bigger and broader scale. And so as we think about the excitement that is this space, the life-changing results that we offer to our patients, and then as a business, the life-changing and business growing impact that we can have on existing businesses, we set out to build a brand that's really trusted on both sides, whether that be patient-facing in a new build, or that whether we're acquiring a business that wants a place to call home that they can continue to grow.
Right. That's such an interesting, I hadn't thought of that, Alyssa, where the alignment between the ethos of brand that you're bringing to practice owners that you might look to partner with or acquire, and also the ethos that you're bringing to, the actual end patient. And it sounds like so you have then sort of made the decision to have a unified brand across the platform. Is that the case?
Yes, we're so excited. So we are announcing this week that the Aesthetic Syndicate name will be retired and will be replaced with a name that I'm super excited to share, maybe in another week or two. Super excited to share externally that really embodies everything that I just talked about, and truly, I believe, will differentiate us so that when you are a potential partner and looking for someone to do business with, or you're a provider that's looking for a place to call home and you want to grow your career, or you're a patient and you want your outside to reflect how you feel on the inside and help you get that momentum that you know that you're feeling on the inside. It's a place that embodies all of that. I'm really, really excited about what it means.
And that's really, I know that again, that's a question that many folks are toying with. And we've seen the success of some large single brand platforms. Of course, Skin Spirit is such a respected player in the space. But I think it's also kind of novel, right? For a private equity backed roll up, it is a different strategy. And I'm so excited to see um, in a way, this is sort of in line with this trend that we're all, I think, as people living in the world experiencing the consumerization of healthcare, right? Where, our experience when we go into a healthcare practice should be as lovely as if we walk into another consumer service, whether I'm getting my lashes done or something of that nature. Um, and to your point, sort of segue, you teed me up so nicely for kind of another thing I wanted to talk to you about, which is just patient experience. You know, Patients will have a relationship not only with, or patients or consumers, whomever, not only with their provider, but also with the brand. I guess, what do you see as the role of brand in kind of the actual patient experience, from obviously first touch points with the brand, but also when they're in your actual practice.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And, we also have the unique business model where we've partnered with existing brands that are well known in their local communities and are well respected. And, this isn't about an ego or saying, I want to like rip your name off the front door and put a new name on it. Why would I do that? Right. Why would I break the trust that you have with your patients? And also, what does it mean that you get to partner with a brand of our size, with the amount of resources, research and development, being on the tip of the spear of new services that can be offered, continuing education, training, et cetera? Like it means something that you have grown your business to the level that you can partner with a platform like ours, because it's like a graduation for you. It's a celebration of the growth of your business, right? And so I believe those things can exist together in a world that makes total sense, so that the patient still is resonating with their local community brand, the one that they've known and loved, and then they can go, oh wow, they're affiliated with insert our new name. I know I'm going to get the best of care. I know I'm going to get the best of experience, and I will continue to, because of what that means. And so I think there's a few things, Annie, like around brand that I find fascinating in our space. One is that, as I said on my deep dive of understanding the landscape from a competitive perspective, it's interesting that our tickets are really high, right? This is an expensive cash-based business, so for myself included, like, right? We all budget,
I know, Alyssa.
we all budget for the whole thing, right? And so that should be combined with a luxury experience. Like, you don't need to be more expensive for your patient to call this a luxury experience, because it should be a luxury experience no matter where you go in aesthetics, right? So that's number one. So a huge ethos of this brand launch is, how do we anticipate need ahead of what the patient even knows that they need, so that we can get ahead of that and give them something they didn't even know that they needed, right? Like, how do we differentiate ourselves there? Because they're already paying for that level of service. But quite frankly, I don't know that across the landscape I'm seeing that delivered consistently well, right? That's kind of thing one. Thing two for me is, there's almost like an ethereal type of messaging, as in, this is going to be like an outer body experience, some kind of heavenly realm, if that makes sense, of come into my med spa and you're going to float on the clouds. And the reality is, this is clinical, right? That this is the marrying of science and art. And this is not fully invasive, but some invasiveness type of a service that gets you very specific outcomes. And we don't talk enough about in aesthetics that if you're at the right provider who has been trained appropriately, you will leave with the service and the results that you want. Like, we're not practicing. We actually deliver on what we say we will deliver on. So for example, if I want my 11 lines to be gone between my eyebrows and I go and get neurotoxin, they will actually be gone. 100% of the time, right? So like I get some filler in my chin, maybe once or twice a year. And like when it's time for my filler and I want my chin to be like just a little bit fuller than it is, I will leave and my chin will be fuller 100% every single time. And I don't know that we talk about that in aesthetics enough, that we deliver on what you're looking for. And if that conversation is patient driven around what they want and helping them to step into the fullest version of themselves, you will leave happy every single time. And that is something that I think we can scream from the high heavens. That I don't know that we talk about enough in the space. And that's when I think about brand, like that's brand.
Right, right. It's such a good point. I mean, if you think about like preventative care, right? Or, I just took my supplements, my like NAD precursor supplements this morning. Do I know if they're working? Absolutely not. I was looking at them, so I'm like, they're harmless, right? Like
And I got a monthly subscription. I might as well just take them.
People have a monthly subscription. Why would I take them? But so much of healthcare is either preventative, and therefore it's incredibly important. I'm certainly not diminishing that, but we don't necessarily see it, or retroactively correcting something that's gone very wrong. And I think that aesthetics sort of sits in this beautiful sweet spot of, it's not necessarily problem statement, but it's something that again would enhance. Again, not making up for a deficit, but potentially enhancing something that you wanted to see enhanced, and it will happen, right? This is not smoke and mirrors. This is actual real medical science. And I think the industry, for many reasons, I think it's catching on that that's the case, but I think that wasn't necessarily understood kind of in the earlier phases of this industry.
Totally agreed.
Yeah. And to your point, the actual experience, that consistency, I think you were mentioning the consistency of the experience. I think, Alyssa, that's where your four-wall retail experience comes in, because, I have spent, unsurprisingly, a lot of time in many, many, many med spas, and even within the same brand, there's often a pretty fundamentally different patient journey. That one goes on from the way the front desk welcomes you to where you sit, and sort of how you're brought into the room. And, those tight things, I think, are how patients feel really safe. And again, can be really signals of the, I think, caliber of operations of an organization overall. Like, I think about everything we do as a business is a signal to our patients or our clients of how we're run internally. And
it's so well said, Annie. And you can create an environment like that and engage the team in a way that has them excited to be honoring, the rigor that you have around the patient experience, and really nail it every single time without fail. And if you do it right, you also then get to protect the entrepreneurship of each of those providers, right? Because they truly are the expert. And so I always say, like, something that I would never do is dictate how long a provider can spend with the patient. Like, that is up to them, because they need the time and the space to do treatment plans really well and have those conversations, for example, and also be the one driving what that patient care looks like in relationship with their patient, right? And that's always unique, because each patient is a unique individual with unique needs. But everything around that to create a safe environment, to your point, that consistency, that's what builds credibility. That's what builds trust. And, running operations for years and years, I've always said, if you went into a Starbucks and the barista behind the counter said, do you want a small, medium, or large? You'd be like, I'm out of here. Like, what is wrong with you'd like literally be scared, right? Like, I'm not going to drink this coffee, right? There's no way. And it's like, you just instantly lose credibility, and you instantly lose the trust of the person that you're interacting with. And so, to your point, like, those little consistencies over the course of the patient interaction, by the way, digitally as well, it's the whole connected commerce experience. It has to flow together to start to build the trust that you then, when you get in front of the provider, you actually have the space to really talk about the things that you want to talk about because you're already set at ease before you even go into the conversation.
Right. Totally.
Mhm.
And I'm such a consistency maniac with my coffee. I just use the app. I just doop 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 doop, same order every time. Creature of habit over here.
I say exactly.
Um, it's so interesting, going back to this idea of team, which is something I know you and I share as a really important value. You know, in order to allow that to happen, of course you need SOPs and procedure, but you also need buy-in. Like at the end of the day, your team on the ground has to do the thing. How do you
Mhm.
think about, you're in this sort of unique structure of having, you have an MSO, a group of incredible folks who are serving all of your practices, and then you have all of these sort of sub brands, each of which might have multiple locations. How do you think about making sure each level of that tier, understands the ethos of the brand and also, is motivated to enact that in every single one of their interactions?
Mhm. Yeah, no, it's a says easy and does really hard,
Yeah.
right? And so I would say number one, this is kind of what we started with. Number one is myself and my leadership team just being really front and forward and involved in the business and very easy to find. And I even started an Instagram page when I stepped into this role so that people can find me and talk to me and see me at a human level. I think it's just vitally important that they know the person who's leading the company is a real human being, and is prone to make mistakes and learn and has all the right intentions in the world. I think that's thing one, is being available and being authentic and being human.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then number two, it's what am I hearing? What is my leadership team and I hearing consistently of problems we can solve, obstacles we can help overcome? And, how do you create that you talk and we listen environment so that you are responding to the need? Because typically, when a field team has a need, it's something that is preventing them from doing what they want to do for your patient or for your consumer. It's usually not selfishly driven. And so, if I can come in and solve some of those things really, really quickly, you start to create that buy-in, right? And then thing three, like kind of on that funnel, is getting really clear on who you are as a brand, what you stand for, who you are serving, what is your manifesto, what is your mission and vision and values, and constantly communicating that, driving accountability around that, embedding it into your culture, embedding it into your leadership competencies, into your quarterly reviews. So it's not just words on a wall or words on a page, but it's truly embedded within the organization. And then rewarding and recognizing talent that actually makes decisions based on those things and seeing what it looks like live in action and continuing to drill down on that, recognize that, and celebrate that. And once you have those things, right, which are already most of the way there here, once you have those things, then like your SOPs and the rigor that you build around a patient journey and the way that you greet somebody and doing it the same way every single time, ensuring that you're capturing that rebook for a second appointment when the patient comes through, is the team understands that what you're asking for is really what we're all aligned to anyway, and that you're helping to bring it to life versus, myself sitting in my office in Dallas and asking a team member to do something that doesn't make any sense. It all has to align and it all has to tell the same story. And then we are the team that brings it to life together. And this is how you do it.
Right. Right. That's such a that's such a thoughtful approach, I think, in terms of making sure that the team is aware of the intersection between, the processes and procedures and things that you're doing and the why behind them. And making sure it's very clear that like all of our why, right, is the exact same thing. We're just sort of all together collectively figuring out how to make the same why happen.
Yes.
And establishing that buy-in through, surprise, surprise, doing the thing you said you would do, which is actually harder than, I think a lot of leaders will come in with large promises and sort of forget to close that loop. So to your point, just getting some wins of showing like, if you speak, I will listen. Those little things, really, it's amazing how much those little things can matter.
Yeah, and even when you can't do what is being asked, right? There, because sometimes there's just reasons that it's just not doable.
Oh, yeah,
Being
yeah.
super transparent about that, or you know what, that is a fantastic idea. Let me work on that. And I can't do it right away. I will come back and say, hey, I want you to know that's still on my mind. I'll tap my own calendar and say, remind Chelsea that you're still working on the idea that she had. Or if it's dead in the water, being transparent as to why it goes so far to just honor people's feedback and follow through and on what you said you were going to do. It's really everything. I always say the bar is so low. You just follow up.
I know. But it is something that's so easy to forget. Like it, even for me as a leader, like bringing folks along the journey of decision making with you is something I really try to be mindful of doing. Like, no one's great. If there's a reason you're making a decision, like they'd probably be aligned as long as they know. We just
100%.
forget to share, like, yes, but maybe a little different, or no, because of this, and if you just sort of share the greater context behind that decision, I mean, I think it allows me as a leader to not be the bad guy in many ways, because it's just sort of like, if we all have the same facts, we're actually probably all going to do the same thing here.
100%. Yeah. And I wholly align to what you're saying. And I always say, like, the reason why I'm able to make the decisions that I am able to make, the only difference between myself and somebody who may work on a clinic is my level of scope and my exposure to maybe a bigger picture. So if I'm hearing one thing from a clinic, it's one thing. But if I hear that same thing from 7 clinics, then I can act on that. And so a lot of times it's just being able to share the scope that I'm sitting from in order to broaden the horizons. And on the flip side, my team members are seeing things that I would never see in one-on-one conversations with patients and one-on-one conversations with their teams. That it's so important to have that active dialogue so that we're all sharpening each other and making each other smarter in a process.
Right, right. One of the things I love to do, and this actually comes from sort of like my product tech background, is before we jump to the fix the solution, what's the problem statement?
Mm-hmm.
And really getting to, because I think people will be really creative and say, let's do X, Y, and Z. And, maybe I'm sort of immediately not bought into that. But if I can really, really understand like the problem behind what it is that they're struggling with, like that, I think can be a really helpful thing to then have a greater conversation with that person around, okay, what are all of our options? Okay, now if we think about like everything, we have to be able to do 50x. So like, let's think, is this scalable?
Yep.
And together come up with a solution that can be something that's not only great for an individual practice, but also a broader platform. Because you, Alyssa, are thinking like, you said 60 clinics, or I think, or something in that realm. Like,
Yep.
you're thinking from airplane controller view a lot of the time too.
Exactly. Yeah. I love that, Amy. I am always asking, what's the question behind your question?
Yeah.
So before I answer you, tell me where that question came from. And let's start there. Because that's usually where like my nugget is of like, okay, if I can find out the question behind this question, I know I'm going to learn something from this person, and not taking everything at face value and really trying to get to root cause of why someone is coming to you with something. 9 times out of 10, that's where the sweater really starts to unravel. As you pull on that sweater thread, you find out so much more, and it's just so helpful.
Yeah, totally. Do you have any favorite values of yours?
Oh, I love this question. So most times when I inherit a new team, I think it's a Brene Brown exercise. I hope I'm not misappropriating that. Where you take 100, I know, sorry, Brene, or yay, Brene, maybe with somebody else. You take a list of 100 values, right? So you're talking like integrity, honesty, family, faith. I mean, like just there are all the good things in the world, right? And you ask the team to narrow it down to 10, which is like really hard to do.
Yeah.
Then once you get down to top 10, you ask them to narrow it down to 2. And then you share out those 2 and as to why those are your core values as a human. And usually there's tiers. It's just a really cool connection, like type of exercise to do. And I'll tell you, I've done this exercise a number of times, like really over the last 10 years. And, I'm a mom, I should say like family, right? Or whatever. And I will tell you, my top 2 values always are beauty and adventure. And just seeking those 2 things in life at all times, I think just creates such a wonderful life. And I think it's one of the reasons why I get to sit here today, is because just always seeking adventure, always seeking things to make make them better than when you found them, and looking for experiences that are just beautiful and that could pertain to so many different things and areas. I'd say those are my top two personally.
Well, Alyssa, it sounds like you're living in alignment because I would say consistently across your background, it seems like beauty and adventure are, a North Star of every single one
You're
of them.
definitely a common thread, right?
I'm seeing something in common, which is what an amazing thing to, and I'm sure, you're working a million hours, but I find that when you're working in alignment with your values and the things that make you whole, and importantly, with people who you feel like your best self around, hard work is a lot easier.
It's the best. Monday comes easy around here. Love it. It's a continuation of it. It's another great day. The weekend's great, and so is Monday through Friday, and it's fun to incorporate it all into everything. It's really how I've done my entire career, especially, raising my boys are 15, 18, and 22. So I've been raising kids while working my tail off and combining it all together into one. In fact, what's funny is my car has a flat tire outside of HQ, literally as we speak. And so my 18-year-old son is coming here in an hour or two to change up my tire for me. Grab some lunch from the kitchen and say hi to the team. It's like, just having it all together in one, your whole life, loving what you do and loving the people that you work with. It's like literally everything. You know that you have the same thing going on.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I think there can be this idea of, making sure that you're not blurring boundaries. And yes, everyone needs to maintain whatever boundaries they need. But my sort of fundamental belief is that if your job doesn't work for your life, right, it's not going to work. So I want to know everyone's partner. I want to know their kids. I want to know their pets. If their spouse isn't aligned with what we're doing, literally nothing is going to work. So we work, I think we no longer go home at 5 and our computer is shut. We work in such an integrated way. Again, it's sort of about that alignment piece, right? Where it just all has to be flowing in the same direction.
Exactly.
Yeah. I would bring my dog to work if I could. I know that you do.
I know I do bring my dog. Yes, and she's the best. Yeah. I did not bring her today because we're on a podcast. I don't want her barking and embarrassing.
That's fair. The wonderful woman lady who edits this podcast, I'm sure will be appreciative of that. Well, great. Well, I know that I've taken a lot of your time already, but I always love to do just to wrap up, just one or two kind of rapid questions. What's the hardest part of your job, and what's the most fun part of your job?
Oh, I love it. Hardest part of my job. Hardest part of my job is wanting to be everywhere all the time. Every time I visit a team, I say I need to get back here more often. But if I got back to everywhere more often, then I would literally never sleep. Right? I'd say that's probably thing one. And best part of my job is building careers, watching people thrive and grow in a thriving environment, and knowing that I'm creating career opportunities for people for generations to come is what more you want in life than making women rich, men too, but in this industry it's mostly women, and it's fantastic.
Yeah. I know, it's like those kids I was talking about. I'm personally invested in like ensuring their college education is secure. It's like personally that is important to me.
Yes, exactly. It's a big responsibility, and it's the best.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. And then I guess just to close us out, what are you most proud of when you look back? I think I'm most proud of two things. One, the careers that have been impacted and the legacies that have been built just because of good decision making. And two, the person I've become along the way. It's this career has built me and has shown me my capabilities, shown me what's possible for my life, shown me who I can become and continue to become. And it's really cool to look back and go, wow, like my new self runs circles around my old self. And that's going to continue to happen as I grow in my career for years to come. Yeah. Alyssa, I ask this question every time, as you know, and that is such a unique answer. I've never heard that answer. And I absolutely love that answer because, to your point, if you find meaning of building careers and making proving others wrong in terms of what they can do, why not give that gift to yourself? So what a wonderful takeaway. I'm going to be thinking about that one later today. And, thinking about future Annie running circles around this Annie and what it will take to get there.
That's right. Exactly. If you're not embarrassed by who you were yesterday, like, are you even growing? Right.
I feel like at this point I've had to just give up embarrassment because it'd be too painful.
Well, I know. And we've already talked about retiring our Instagram pages, right?
Yeah. It's so
we're evolving. That's who we are.
We're evolving, exactly, and wish that for everyone. Well, Alyssa, what a treat it was to have you here with us today. Thank you for your time. I know it's incredibly valuable, and looking forward to having another conversation.
Same. You're the best. Thank you so much.
Thanks.